Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns Creatures series of comedy, fantasy novels, and short stories. With me is Sam West, and today we are going to be breaking down our picks for the top five and one worst, with five best and one worst. Level 1, Artificer Spells.
Absolutely. It's time. Another half-caster, another time to talk about why spells aren't equal across all classes. Not so much here.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if it's time for that yet. We're only on level 1.
Yeah. Once we get to level 3 and 4 and 5, that's whenever we can start being like, man. But here it doesn't feel nearly as bad. That being said, I don't love their list. I don't think this is like the best spell list we've ever seen. It isn't unusable most of it, but there are some unusable options, which we'll cover in the tail end of this video. But like,
I didn't find it to be such a bad list. I mean, I found 5 spells I was okay to have easily enough. Like,
yeah, but like
after some of these lists that we've done not too long ago, that was refreshing.
Sure. For first levels, it's a little bit easier because there's almost always some good first levels. But like whenever we do like a top 5 wizard first level, it's like, okay, well, which of these 12 excellent spells would you like on your spell sheet? And for the ones like, I mean, I could put most of these on a character sheet. They're not like exciting to me for the most part, but sure, why not?
All right, caveats. Sam ranks as an order. I generally don't. Just 5 spells that I think are cool.
Other small note, they're ritual casters. Unlike the other half casters as of the original 5th edition, which is what we're talking about. If you're in the future and the next update for 5th edition is live, everyone's not a ritual caster yet, but artificers are. So artificers will always be ritual casters. So detect magic and stuff. You don't need to spend spells all the time, making them quite a bit better.
So
additionally,
I'm sorry. In the upcoming edition, they're planning on having everyone be ritual casters.
Yeah, if you got spell casting, you got ritual casting in the upcoming edition.
Is that written in stone?
It's in the playtest documents. I don't know if it's going to be published, but that's where it currently is.
Okay.
Other small note is, unlike the other half casters, you start with spellcasting as an artificer, which means at level 1, you're as good at spellcasting as wizards are. You just have 2 first level spell slots and the first level spells. So like, hypothetically, you're for a full level, a full caster. And then at second level, you get no new first level spell slots.
So make these good.
Yeah, these ones are going to carry you for a little while, especially because you're not a real character until you have your subclass with artificers. Mainly because artificers, like, their whole identity is their subclass. Like, they're entirely different characters, whether you're not a character as an alchemist because they're trash, or one of the other 3 that are pretty decent. So, these are going to do some heavy lifting for the early game for you.
All right. Well, but we don't get a subclass yet.
Nope, 3rd level.
All right, good. So then I don't have to weigh that into my decision making.
You should. I should, but you don't have to.
Right. Yeah.
My 5, I think, are good on basically everybody for what it's worth. And there aren't really any on this list that I'm like, I want this more on some characters than others by like a huge degree. So
yeah, my 5 picks were pretty generic.
Yeah. It's a pretty generic list, honestly.
Yeah.
This is kind of like the mid-level wizard picks, is what I view the Artificer spell list as. It's just like they get a bad healing spell and then just some like mediocre wizard spells, and that's what defines them.
The cantrip list was great.
It was a bunch of good damaging cantrips. What's not to love?
Yeah. All right, well, what do you got?
You
going up to down or down to up?
We'll go top to bottom.
Whoa.
Or bottom to top. Sorry, bottom to top. Right. That one. The more dramatic way. This is a spell I think we have talked about too infrequently. I think this spell deserves more recognition, and while it may not it doesn't make a top 5 on any other class list that gets it. I think it deserves a top 5 slot here. Featherfall. Featherfall is very, very useful. It's kind of like fast travel if you're going vertically long distances, because you can say, well, we'd have to go all the way down the tower, or we could all jump off the tower and I featherfall us, and we just get down to the bottom and can ignore everything in the tower, right? This kind of utility is really handy, and it also is just that defensive option for whenever you didn't mean to fall off the side of the cliff, but you did, so you just now spontaneously don't die. And that's really, really efficient to have at a first level spell cost.
Yeah, I looked at that one. It ultimately did not make my list, but it could have. I could swap out one of these for that. I just don't get excited enough about it. Like, I'd really like to have it if I fell off a cliff, but I don't know. I guess I'm not responsible enough.
This is the kind of spell that I don't want to take first. This isn't going to be like whenever I'm picking my 2 Artificer spells or whatever that I'm going to lock in. But when I have, whenever I'm comfortable with, I've got, Caustic Brew or other decent first level spells that I'm routinely using, then I'll be like, okay, sure. This is a good time to grab Featherfall, stick it on my sheet, and just have it for the rest of the campaign. Just be like, if I, in a pinch, I'll spend a second or first level spell slot, and no one has to suffer fall damage. And just that little safety net on all the time is a really big game for the duration of campaigns. It will save lives. In basically every campaign I've ever played in, it has saved lives.
All right. Let's see. Did this one make your list? I chose Catapult.
Catapult is my number 4.
Is it? All right, cool.
Yeah. I'm not happy about it, but it is.
I don't know. I am happy about it. I don't think it's necessarily useful or like very useful or powerful, but it's fun.
I was gonna say, just like you're saying, I don't know. To say, I don't think it's very useful or powerful, and it's one of the top 5 options.
That's not a reflection on the list necessarily. It's just I think it's fun.
That's fair.
And I chose it for that reason. And also, all right, you get your choice of like any 1 to 5 pound object around. I'm looking around my garage. There's a lot of crap I can throw around. And yeah, that's like whatever it is. It could be a coffee mug and it's going to do the same damage as a hammer.
Yeah. This definitely is a spell I love looking at, and I love having people cast to whenever I'm like, if I'm the DM narrating what's occurring, hearing someone go, I catapult the mug across the tavern, there's so much fun to be had with that object just flying through space, smashing at somebody's head and doing a tremendous amount of damage, right? This is Chromatic Orb, mechanically, right? Like, it's doing that damage for a first level spell slot. It requires an object, and it's always bludgeoning damage, so it's often worse than Chromatic Orb, which isn't a great place to be, but it has some little neat upsides where you're grabbing objects, and I think, given the rest of this list, this is the best single target damage spell kind of option you have. And if you're looking to do big splashy damage in the early tiers, I think this is a great option for you to just stick on your sheet, given what else you got access to.
And it's got, I mean, for what it's worth, you're not only damaging your target, you're destroying the object probably. So that's fun. And there's out of combat utility.
Yeah.
Some.
In a pinch, this is telekinesis. You can just be like, yoink. It's very limited telekinesis. It does upcast carry heavier things, which I think is really funny. Yeah. The damage is almost never worth it, but the weight kind of gets weird. If you do like 5th level caster, this gives you a 25 pound object, and that's like, dogs and stuff. So you can just that's the weight category we start to look at. It's like small animals.
Does a creature count, or does it only do?
No, it has to be an object, and that is a creature. You're right, but like that's the weight category I think of it out. It's like a Shiba Inu is like a 25 pound animal, right?
What about a dead dog?
Sure, that counts. That's an object now. So you just throw dead dogs at people for total spell slots. It's not good, but it's cute. I like it. The upcast is almost all flavor, and honestly, for a spell that's mainly just a first level damaging spell, that's fine.
If you're really strapped for ammunition, just stab your dog first.
If there's no other objects, don't drop your knife and throw that at them. Stab your dog and throw that at them.
All right. All right, I guess
My
it's
turn?
your turn. Yeah.
Okay. My number 3 is the other damage spell that I think is worth talking about, just because it's an area of effect. It's Tasha's Caustic Brew, and I think it's slightly better than Catapult. I think if I'm playing Artificer, normally this is the only damage spell I'm taking. It's a 30-foot line. That might be why I'm taking, because I'm a sucker for lines. But it gives you a neat little persistent damage effect that's usually eats an action. And if you ever get the 2d4 damage and an action eaten out of this, I think it's excellent. And that's kind of what it regularly does, is you hit 3 or 4 things, maybe 2 things. If one of them spends an action to, take off the acid, you're happy. If it takes 44 damage, you're happy. That's a giant circumstance that I'm like, yeah, this is going to be regularly worth casting to me. It's not amazing, but it's fun.
No, I think Catapult was the only damage cantrip that made my list, because I don't know, there's a lot of utility spells that I felt like obligated to take because I've been berated for not taking them on other lists. So on that note, I chose Detect Magic.
That's my number 2. We're just blitzing through my top 5.
Yeah. Detect magic. You detect magic, and that's cool.
I think if you're an artificer, like it's inherently something you're expected to have, right? It's like you're the magic item person. Your job is to interface with magic, generally speaking. You get like the infuse items, and you're kind of like you run around with a detector and stuff. It also like there's cute flavor things you can do with it, where you put on goggles, and they're what your detect magic looks like, right? You can have all kinds of different artificer equivalent appearances that you can like stick to the spell to make it function. And on top of that, it's just really useful. Knowing when something's magical, knowing if something's an illusion, knowing something's raised by necromancy, knowing if something is, conjured into existence. It'll detect through most materials as long as they're not super thick or made through lead or whatever. It's a great little utility cantrip that you're happy to have with the ritual slot. It improves your character sheet by just having this on it. Yeah, it's a fantastic spell.
So that's not how I picture artificers. Like, there are so many actual magic classes in the game that all get this spell or access to it, and artificers, I feel more they're recreating the effects of magic with technology in a way. Like, so they're like the least magic of magic users.
I don't know. I think that while they're not like spellcasters, I think they are the ones who study the science of magic to me, and that's why they were like related to items. So something like that detects magic feels like really in their wheelhouse, or something like conjuring things into existence feels out of their wheelhouse. That's where I kind of have that separation in my brain.
Either way, useful spell.
Yeah, it's great. And again, it being a ritual spell, you're a ritual caster. If you want to expand the options you have, cast spells that don't have the ritual tag with your spell slots, and spend the rest of them on the rest of your prepared spells and known spells as rituals.
All right. What else do you got?
All right, my number one, blitzing through it.
Are you at number one already?
Yeah, Featherfall, Catapult, Caustic, brew, detect magic, and now absorb elements. We got two of yours still, I think.
Well, no, absorb elements is one of mine.
Oh, excellent. I kind of expected that, to be fair. Yeah. This is notable because this is the only one we've talked about so far, I think, that's meaningfully different on the different archetypes, where if you're playing the Battlesmith that gets a Steel Defender, they kind of tend to want to be melee ranged and they have extra attack. Or if you're the Armorer, which literally is built to beat a giant suit of armor, having those two melee-centric classes that get extra attack, that really synergizes with having a defensive feature to say, I take less damage right now as a reaction, and then you can also use the on-hit damage a little bit easier. You're expecting to get that a little bit more frequently. I tend to prefer it on them slightly higher, but I still want it on my artillerists whenever I have the opportunity to. Artillerists get a great bonus selection of spells that you can just like stick on your sheet too, that give you rampant access to extra damaging effects. I still tend to want to absorb elements to be like, okay, I want to make sure I'm not dying to that fireball. I want to make sure I'm not dying to that coat of cold. This is a great way to say, oh, that's 37 damage. Let's have that.
Also, this one kind of feels it can feel like an artificer theme to me if you're imagining it the way I am. In the case, like, all right, so you got this guy, he's all technological, and he's always building gadgets and stuff. He's got his armor got lightning rods and crap all over it, so that it does suck in a little bit of the damage, and then it squirts them back at the offender. And that's fun.
I love the idea where like the armorers absorb elements is just a series of different contraptions, all of which are targeting a different elemental damage type, right? So the one spell has like a lightning rod on your back, serious like internal 2-layered padding, one for heat, one for cold, that absorb different layers of heat frequencies and stuff. You've got like the weird holy crosses stapled and stitched on your shoulders for the necrotic damage, at the same time like Satan's head itself mounted on your chest to rebuke radiant damage. Like there's so many cute things that can go alongside absorb elements. I don't know if necrotic and radiant are on absorb elements actually, but you get the point. You just like, I love that conceptual idea of how artificers engage with magic. And it's not written in the spell, but if I'm playing an artificer, I'm absolutely doing the 110% work of making every spell have 10 billion gadgets on my person that have to interface with it.
But they only work if you actually use the spell.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, that was absorb elements. What else do I have on my list? Oh, I put identify. Have we ever talked about identify?
I think it's come up in conversation. I don't know if it's been like an in-depth look at it. It is another one of those things that I would expect an artificer to be able to do, though.
Yeah. They know about this stuff.
Yeah, it's their job. They're the magic item team. The person on your squad that goes, what does this do? The artificer has to figure it out. And identify is just an easy way to figure it out. And again, it's a ritual spell. I wouldn't take this and attack magic because again, you're an artificer and your spell selection is fairly narrow.
Yeah.
You get, let's see, you repair a number equal to your artificer, your int mod plus half your level, so it's normally 3 or 4. Okay, never mind. Maybe this is pretty easy to prepare. You prepare this to attack magic 2 spells that you plan to cast. Okay, yeah, that seems great actually. I'm into it.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So this does more than simply identifying an item, right?
It lets you know if it's cursed.
Okay, well, I guess that's handy.
It lets if it is a magic item or some other magic imbued object, you learn its properties, how to use it, whether you need attunement to use it, and how many charges it has, if any. You learn whether any effects are affecting the item. If they are, if it was created by a spell, you know what spell created it. It tells you all those things. 95% of the time, the thing it tells you is what the magic item is. The DM just hands you the magic item block and goes, "This is the magic item that you just got. Congratulations, you were going to get a spy tune into it anyway." So you know. The other thing it could do, I've never once seen this happen, is you can touch a creature and it lets you know what spells are affecting it.
Oh, that's what I was thinking of. But yeah, that's probably not coming up a whole lot.
I think it could come up more often if people ran like intrigue and espionage games. If you're doing games that you care about mind control effects a lot, hey, this will let you know if someone's acting in good faith or not, if they're charmed. That's kind of cute. Yeah. Detect Magic will do the same thing. It'll let you know if something's charmed. But yeah, you know, this is also fine. You just have to make sure you have 100 gold before you can get it. So
yeah. All right. Well, I guess we've gone through all yours. I still got one more left.
I'm scared. I've run out of spells that I'm like really into.
I chose Disguise Self.
Okay, that one's pretty reasonable actually.
Hey, if you got all this armor and gadgets and crap on, sometimes you want to look like a normal person.
Good point. I was actually pretty close to putting that on this list over Catapult. I was thinking, like, I don't really know if you need 3d8 damage as a first level spell. At the same time, like, it's a big chunk. I think I might prefer, honestly, Disguise Self over Catapult if I were to, like, craft my own sheets. But, yeah, I love Disguise Self. It's a great utility option. It's really only good at levels 1 and 2 before invisibility comes online, generally speaking. It tends to lose a lot of its practical implications post that, but...
A lot of it, but I still think it has some. I mean, sometimes... you don't want to not be seen. You want to be seen as someone else.
Right. I think this is one of those moments we get in this conversation a lot where we're talking about a spell like Gentle Repose or Feign Death is a better example. And we say, okay,
the Feign Death.
Yeah, if this spell is a spell that isn't useful in a variety of situations, but is a spell that you use to engage us with situation, you engineer an encounter that will use that effect. I feel that kind of how Disguise Self starts to look past invisibility. Like once there is an easy solution to it, Disguise Self stops being a solution to problems that you're spontaneously approached by and starts to be something you plan to use because you have that tool available to you. That isn't meaningless. It's just a little bit less flexible and useful, I think. Still and great early though.
All applicable to Disguise Self, but not to Feign Death.
You could play to get hot, pretend to be a corpse and go into a morgue and steal some things. That's definitely possible. Yeah, Disguise Self is leagues better than that spell. Don't get me wrong.
You could also just hold your breath and
sure, put on a compelling performance. I mean, disguise kits exist.
Yeah.
Disguise Self is, I like it. I think Absorb Elements is the only spell that we've talked about. That's not true. Detect Magic probably cracks a 3 as well, as far as like how good it is out of 5. Most of these we're talking about are like mid-fine usable effects. None of them are particularly game warping or game breaking, and that's okay. You're an artificer. You're gonna do your game breaking and game warping stuff whenever you start making magic items, and you get the really busted subclass stuff. So
yeah, it's fun. Catapult's fun.
Yeah, Catapult is fun. Caustic is fun. Identify is great. Why not Disguise Self? It's a cool spell.
All right, now for the fun part. You want to go over your top 5 list again?
Yes, my number 1, Absorb Elements. Detect Magic is my number 2. Caustic Brew, Tasha's Caustic Brew is number 3. Catapult's number 4, and Featherfall number 5.
Okay, I have Absorb Elements, Catapult, Detect Magic, Identify, and Disguise Self.
Yeah, I really don't think you can go wrong preparing any of these. I think both our lists are really excellent. I think Grease also I would say has on some
thought
tables.
About Grease. That felt really artificery to me, but I just don't think it's useful enough.
I think Grease used to be really good, and there are so many good area of effect, like control effects, like Entangle and stuff now. Like the second level ones have Rhyme's Binding Ice, have Near's Mischief, have a ton of like really good redundant effects for it, and like it just makes people slip and fall over. It's not,
and it's so small. It's 10
really small.
Square, yeah.
Yeah, maybe Grease's time has passed.
Grease used to be flammable. I guess you could rule it either way, but it doesn't say that in the text anymore.
One of the few games I played at, it was just like a random meetup at a library. My best friend went just to see what like in-person live play with random people would be like. And we had an old school gamer who cast Grease that way, and our DM absolutely let everything light on fire. It was a gnome, had some lard, put it out, got a light matchstick. It was cute. It was definitely not rules as written, but it was cute. And I think that the spell would benefit a lot if it could still do those kinds of things. And a lot of DMs definitely will run with it like it can.
All right. Now for the fun part. What was your worst?
My worst. I think my worst. Here's the thing. It is purify food and drink, right? Like that just objectively is the right answer.
It probably should be, but no, I picked a different one.
Okay, well, purify food and drink, then I'll have be mine. There are just like this spell is just so like meh, and this is the only like truly uncastable spell among them. It makes sense that it's on the Artificer spell list. It is a ritual spell at least, so like if you want to routinely purify everything, I guess just do this before every meal. Have a 10-minute ritual of purification. If you want to feel like that kind of Artificer chef character, maybe you do this. But like if you're an alchemist, maybe you want to do this, and then you're just deliberately like hamstringing yourself further. That's great. Where you're like, I don't get subclass features or spells. Let's do this thing. Yeah, it's really, really terrible. There's just no situations regularly coming up where you're gonna need to stop poisoning in your food. It's just so far removed from how D&D's actually played in this day and age. It's ridiculous.
Well, I mean, when I forget what the list was, where they had both purify food and drink and detect poison, and I said this one's better, because then you get to eat the food still.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a notch above detect poison.
The worst option. It's a notch above another 1 out of 5. Like it's still terrible though, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
But anyways, I picked snare, and it could have a use maybe, but how could you call yourself an artificer if you can't construct a regular snare?
That's a really good point. This could just
that's why it made my worst.
Yeah, agreed. This could be an Artificer infusion where you just like, as an action, you touch something and it becomes a snare. And I'd be like, okay, this kind of is like a shortcut at least, but it's not. Instead, it's a first level spell that takes a minute to cast. It's not even instantaneous. Like, things have to walk into the space to maybe get yanked up into the air. Like, hitting a slap, you just point and something falls to the ground prone. Like, it's that easy. This is so many steps for a worse condition.
And like I say, every time we mention this, it eats your rope.
Yep. That's the really important bit to you. It
really is, because I mean, if you do a normal snare, you get to keep your rope at the end of it.
Yeah. Maybe you have to cut a little bit off of it, but you'll still have most of that rope coming out at the end of it. With this snare, nope, it's gone forever. It disappears, and you probably didn't get much out of it.
Yes.
Yeah. It has like every bad check mark going against it, right? Like it's got a ridiculously long cast time. You have to get something to walk into a very specific area for it to do anything at all. There are comparative options that are way better than it, and it also suffers from the issue, right, of those spells that you as an aggressor are moving into spaces, not defending spaces as often in D&D. So like these kinds of effects are inherently going to have less opportunity to shine. And Snare's just a first level really bad version of it that doesn't have the dignity to be a ritual spell.
And rope is heavy and cumbersome.
It's true. That's why
barbarians are carrying around like 8 coils of rope.
That's why also as an artificer, one of the first items you make is a bag of holding. I think they can make bags of holding. It's been a second since I looked at their infusion list, but
yeah, I think so.
I would expect so. It's an iconic D&D item.
All right. Well, that was our list. First level Artificer spells.
Yeah.
Got anything else you want to say?
Longstrider is nifty. Right. Jump is nifty. I don't think you should be casting either of them that regularly. Most of the rest of this list is like pretty bad. If you absolutely have to, if like you're the only person that has if you've got a fighter, a barbarian, and a rogue in the party, and none of them have access to healing, you could take cure wounds, and that would be fine. But otherwise, you probably don't need it.
That's very big of you to say, Sam.
Yeah, I mean, like, it is technically a way to get someone off 0, and not having any option in the party for that to occur is useful. So that access is meaningful. It's just way worse than Healing Word. So, you know.
Yeah.
That's it. The list is fine. I like our picks.
Right.
Our worst are bad.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. Let us know your picks down in the comments, and well, what you thought of ours, and how much you love the snare spell, or purify food and drink. That's it. We'll see you next time. Like and subscribe, and goodbye. Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, informative, or entertaining, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button below. You needn't smash it, a gentle tap will suffice. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel. And make sure you check out the links in the description, where you'll find my Caverns and Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels, Sam's full review of the spell, and other fun things.